You know, I've had people say, well, you know, you need to move on or whatever. This is someone's daughter. How would you like it if it was your sister or your mom or your cousin or your girlfriend? Or this is terrible to treat Dawn this way. All she was trying to do was do the right thing, and she ended up dead.
All right, Tony. So I know that your real estate career is sort of like intertwined with the situation with Dawn. So how did you get started in real estate?
Right. So before our lives intersected, there was a pre-Dawn Tony life, and there was a pre-Tony Dawn life. So, so I was dating a young lady, my high school sweetheart, named Katrina Rose. The late great Katrina Rose passed away in heaven, rooting us on. But anyway, she was a photographer, and she loved old houses. So we actually got interested in the real estate business because we would go out and look at these old houses in Cleveland. She used to say, other people have said it, it's like a train set. You know, it's got railroads and factories and smokestacks and old houses. And so part of our interest in real estate was just going around the old neighborhoods of Cleveland and just taking pictures of houses that, you know, the craftsmanship was unbelievable. You never could rebuild these things today. So even though the neighborhoods currently or at that time were largely impoverished, the houses were magnificent. And so Trina, being the idealist, thought that, well, there must be some way we can hire people who need work and fix up these old houses and make it work. So we just sort of started a real estate company. I guess it's great to be 21. Right. You think you know everything, and who needs money or experience? We'll just figure it out as we go. And literally, that's what happened. So we got interested in real estate because we thought houses were cool, not because of any, you know, sitting around with financial spreadsheets or anything. Right. And so that's how the whole thing started. And then just to fast forward, so we started buying and fixing and selling houses, and we didn't really have the money or the experience to do it, but we're actually pretty decent salespeople. So the small core group that was around in the beginning of the company, one day we said, we were at a restaurant in Collinwood, part of Cleveland, called Mirabli's, and we said, maybe we should go to Marshall's and get suits and ties or pressed shirts and become realtors. So like we all went to realtor school. So that was like the company then sort of switched from like hands-on, we're painting and putting in cabinets and stuff, to being a sales and marketing organization. And so that's the direction that the company took over the next, you know, if you fast forward, say 15 years. So the day before the FBI kicks the door in and said I stole $46 million, like the day before that, you know, we had 5 offices in Ohio of realtors. We did property management, auction services. Auctions are just a different way to sell a house. And we did commercial real estate, like leasing companies that need space for industry or office space. So we had a pretty good, not pretty good, a darn good team. You know, in business, you can't get anywhere without a crew. So I was super lucky to have just a dynamic crew. We actually had a lot of people that weren't from the real estate business. So they sort of had this, well, why don't we try this or why don't we try that? So we had sort of an innovative, scrappy little company with low overhead. So we were getting there, you know, in the community. We were building a heck of a business until life changed in one instant.
Okay. So everything's going fine, and then when did things go wrong? Like when did this whole
life changed in one instant? Okay, the FBI, you know, nation's largest mortgage fraud case. The government comes in. I have no criminal history. Nobody's accusing me or suing me of stealing any money. But the government said a multi-jurisdictional task force kicks the door in. It's the scariest thing ever. Rounds up the employees at gunpoint, puts them in this back room. They take our computers. I stole $46 million, supposedly. There was an FBI agent named Jeff Kassouf, and you know, he's like, we're here for the mortgage files. Where are the mortgage files? And I said, sir, you must be at the wrong company. We are realtors. We show houses. We don't do mortgages. And he was just livid. Oh, you're going to be a smartass. Well, you're going to make this a lot harder on yourself. And we're really going to throw the book at you and all this. And it was just shocking that the government is saying I own mortgage companies and title companies, and I stole $46 million. Now, I stole supposedly this money from JP Morgan Chase Bank and Citibank, which are the 2 largest banks, I think, in America. And they weren't saying I stole any money from them. Right. So this was like a surreal experience. I do remember while these people were raiding the company and they wouldn't let me call the lawyer and anything, I just remember putting my head in my hands thinking that everything we've built our whole life is destroyed. Because even if this ends up, if I get acquitted or exonerated, people will think I'm a crook. People will say it's some technicality. You know, the viciousness of the law enforcement officials and the media coverage and everything was just awful. And so I went in 1 second from being, you know, not the coolest guy you ever met in your life, kind of a nerd, but a respected business guy with a great crew, to a criminal in like an instant. And if you believe in the presumption of innocence or innocent until proven guilty, you can forget about that in the business world. Our reputations and business were destroyed by the government in 1 second.
And was there any hint of this prior to it happening?
No.
Or just doors kicked in and just happened all?
No, it was shocking because first of all, we didn't do mortgages.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, as our company grew, we had a really good accountant, we had a really good attorney, real estate attorney. We would have sales meetings to go through compliance. Our attorney was present, advising the sales team. We had audits. We had annual audits by if you're a realtor or a real estate broker or a brokerage, you're subject to audits by the state of Ohio.
Right.
They come in, they give you a short notice, we're coming in on this day. And an auditor comes in and he said, I need, 3 things. I need a conference room that no one else is using. Where's the bathroom? And where's your files? And they would pull files and make sure what we were doing was appropriate. We never, ever had any issues.
Right. And this task force that came after you, Dawn was a part of that.
So Dawn Pasela, right, so let's talk about Dawn before Tony, right?
Okay.
So Dawn was born in 1985. She was the third of 3 sisters of Ed and Karen Pasela. She was homeschooled for a while, lived in North Olmsted and Parma, where we're filming this. It's very apropos. Dawn was incredibly intelligent. She was super talented. She was like one of those like good at everything kind of people. She was athletic. She used to sing. She had a great singing voice. She was a very creative person. She was absolutely gorgeous. She had a little bit of a tart personality, a little bit of a, once I asked, she said, yeah, I have a little bit of a tude. But she was very engaging. She was very people-oriented. She was interested in people. She was just very intelligent. So she was a star student at Cleveland State University and then also Tri-C. She studied criminal justice. She actually had a business background in finance. And she was idealistic. She told me once that, she got into that working for prosecutors because there's people that don't have a voice.
Right.
Some child is raped, God forbid, or some elderly person, someone takes their money. And so she felt like that she could make a difference. And so we talked one time after I knew the whole story, and we were, and she said, business is cool. Nothing wrong with it. You could do a lot of good in business. But I chose this other path because I wanted to contribute to the community through being a part of law enforcement and doing the right thing and advocating for people who'd been victims of crime. So anyway, she was brilliant. And then she was this task force office manager job. If I could just talk about that for a second. She was about 23 years old when she got this. This is a plum job. And there were folks that had a lot more experience that wanted that job, and they passed over a lot of folks to give her the position. She was really good with technology. She was very good with organizing evidence and files. So this task force has got about 15 federal and state and local organizations in it. FBI, Justice Department, Ohio Attorney General, County Prosecutor, some local police departments, the HUD Inspector General. And so Dawn was in charge of getting in evidence, if it was through subpoena or if a witness or an informant would give it to the prosecutors, organizing it. What does this relate to? And then she did what was called deconfliction. So let's say an FBI agent is going to interview Tony. I want to go talk to this guy.
Right.
You would call Dawn first. Hey, what do we got on this guy? Or has anyone else interviewed him? Oh yeah, the Shaker Heights police interviewed him. Oh, well, let me get that interview before I go see this guy. So, or is he a target, or is he cooperating with us, or what's going on? So Dawn was had one of those jugglers with 30 balls in the air, literally that was her job. And she also made the exhibits. You ever see a prosecutor on TV with some chart with the arrows and this and that? She would do all that. She made trial exhibits for the prosecutors. She made these flow charts and organized discovery. So for a young lady, even though she was brilliant, that's a lot of responsibility. And they threw her into that position. And she was a hard worker. She'd be there till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. So but that task force went after over 1,200 people in the greater Cleveland area. So people who were acquiring rental properties, who did not think they were doing anything wrong, realtors. You know, that's the other crazy thing about this mortgage fraud task force. If I say to you, hey, let's sell crack cocaine to high school students. I mean, we all know that's wrong. But if we decide to do that, you know, we can't say that it's impossible that we'd get caught and punished. But I never in a million years ever thought that I could be criminally prosecuted for being a realtor or being a broker that has realtors working in our organization. Never. Not with all the compliance we had with the attorneys and the audits and so forth. So to be accused of owning companies I didn't own and stealing $46 million in the nation's largest mortgage fraud case, I never applied for any mortgages or got any loans. Shocking, absolutely shocking. But so what happens is the intersection of Dawn's life and my life comes when they prosecute me, they indict me in federal court, indict me in state court, indict me again. The Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office has a philosophy. We're going to charge you with 200 felonies, RICO, racketeering. Oh, but you could plead guilty to one and we'll just forget it. So that's what they do. You just go to jail for 5 years, no big deal. And so the county prosecutor's office here has a shameful history of just overcharging people and then wearing you down. We're going to make you come down to court for a pretrial, park, sit there for 3 hours until some bailiff tells you, oh, sorry, the case is postponed, come back in 2 weeks. And until you plead guilty, they just drag you through this. And so I've sat in court for years, this went on, next to people that are like, man, I lost my job, my boss won't let me come down here anymore, I can't afford to park, I got a parking ticket. It's brutal. The U.S. attorney and the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office just brutalizing our own citizens. And there were people that said, look, I told them everything I know, they don't believe me, so they won't take my plea agreement because they know everything, because they start with a conclusion, Tony's a criminal, he stole money, and then we're working back from there. So Dawn was in the prosecutor's office, knew about my case, they realized there's these huge factual errors. Don't actually own the mortgage company, don't actually own the title company, didn't get money. My colleagues are going down saying, Tony's innocent, and this is crazy, we don't steal any money. And so Mark Bennett, the federal prosecutor, people would say that, wrong answer, you can't say that. He would threaten to indict my colleagues if you can't say anything like that. Tony's innocent. So if anyone thinks the prosecutor is on a quest for truth, you can forget that, along with the tooth fairy or anything else you believed in as a kid. These guys start with a conclusion, evidence that wasn't comporting to what they wanted to hear, they would ignore or suppress. So Dawn is seeing all this, shocked, and then she's ordered by Bennett and Caceres, its prosecutors, to wear a wire and pretend that she's working with defense lawyers. So I'm refusing to plead guilty, okay? And I'm saying I'm not pleading guilty to this crap. And I'm on TV when I got raided and reporters banging on my door, Carl Monday and all this. I would say, listen, we didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not pleading guilty. And you can bang on my door, but I will not say no comment. And go ahead, ask me questions. So they were kind of surprised because I think they just thought I was, you know, some guy that would just plead guilty and was afraid of them or whatever. And I'm not giving people advice. I'm not saying to act like this. But for me, I wasn't going to do it. I'm not standing in front of some judge and saying, yeah, I'm guilty of when I don't think we did anything wrong. And at the time, these banks were having all these zany loan programs and coming to our office. Say, here, look, you know, get your people to buy these houses. You can buy house rental property. So I mean, the idea that we're doing something, you know, illegal, it never crossed my mind ever. So now the prosecutors are stuck with a case that sucks, and a guy that won't plead guilty. Dawn's there, and they say, look, you need to go undercover and wear a wire, pretend you're a paralegal working with other lawyers. This is completely illegal.
Right.
Okay? And so they bully her into doing it. She doesn't really want to do it. She actually talks to her folks. They didn't think it was cool. They were like, that's not part of your job. And so, but Dawn was ambitious, and they just kind of pressed her to do it and said, look, you want to be an FBI agent down the road, you want to advance, this is the kind of stuff you have to do. So Dawn approached us and said she was working with other defense lawyers, had some helpful information, maybe we could team up. And so we become friends under false pretenses. And let me just say that this is a crime committed by the U.S. attorney, this guy Bennett, and all these 50 plus law enforcement officers in this task force. You know, I'm not allowed to bug the prosecutor's office. Man, I'd love to hear what they're saying before a trial. Let me bug, you know, or put a wire on the lady that works in the office there. But they did it to me. So in America, supposedly, I mean, we don't follow the law, but let's just say we did. If you're indicted and the government wants to talk to you, you get your lawyer and you go down to the prosecutor's office and you can answer questions, you can plead guilty, you can cooperate, you can argue, whatever. But they wouldn't meet with us. They said I was a target. No, we don't meet with targets. Tony's the ringleader of this multi-million-dollar scam. So they said they wouldn't talk. I wanted to go down and show my tax returns and bring my lawyer and waive all these privileges. Look, this is crazy. We passed all these audits. We didn't steal any money. No, can't do it. We're not going to talk to you. We had a perfunctory 5-minute meeting with the federal prosecutor who told me I was lying, and that was it. And the state prosecutors wouldn't even meet with me. But then they sent Dawn to essentially engage in an illegal post-indictment interview with me to find out what's going on with our trial preparation. And up till now, this shows you what a bunch of buddies these judges are. Don Nugent, the federal judge here, has had no problem with any of this criminal activity by his buddies in the prosecutor's office. So it's outrageous that this kind of stuff. And the other thing is, this is just one aspect of the wrongdoing. Let me just summarize some of the other shenanigans in our case. That's all proven. It's on our website. The government's admitted a lot of this. It's on the freetonyviola.com website, evidence locker. So Mark Bennett comes to federal court one day and says we lost computers from companies I don't own. So they said I own Transcontinental Lending. I did not own Transcontinental Lending. They said I got millions of dollars. I didn't get any money from that company. And they said I got millions of dollars from Family Title Services. I didn't get any money. I don't own Family Title Services. So one way to defend yourself, because they raided all these companies and all these computers, was to go get the computers from those businesses and hire like an accounting guy or some expert to go through the ledgers. Well, how much money did Tony get? Because remember, this is the nation's largest mortgage fraud case, and I orchestrated a scheme to steal $46 million. But if I'm not getting any money, it blows a giant hole through the case, right? So I kept saying on TV, I didn't get any money, I don't own these companies. Maybe these guys shouldn't be prosecutors. Maybe they should buy a Subway franchise and make sandwiches or something, because how do you not know basic facts? And people don't say this on TV when they're criminally charged. So the prosecutors were appalled. But I'm like, listen, I'm the one who should be appalled. They don't even, how do you accuse somebody of this? And they won't even talk to us. So they come to court and say, we lost the computers. We don't have them anymore. From the companies I don't own. So this is a key thing in court. How do you defend yourself when the government loses information and evidence that you have no other way to get? So in other words, if they said that they lost an interview with one of the ladies that worked in our office, for instance, they could say, well, go interview her. She's down the hall, I don't have any way to get these files and computers and documents. So one of the things Dawn had later told me was that they destroyed all that because if you don't have any hard evidence, you could tell stories. So you could have witnesses telling stories. Oh, yeah, Tony was there, or Tony told me to do this, or Tony got money. But so what the government was doing was removing or destroying evidence. They claimed they lost the computers. They actually destroyed them. So because it would have been, we could have filed a motion to dismiss the case. So look, we never got 1 cent. This is an incorrect theory of the case.
So as this is going on, is she having any conversations with you about possibly speaking out about this?
Not yet.
Okay.
So the couple things that happened, there was 3 things that happened. 1, she knows about this affair with the witness and the witness is lying. 2, she's in the meeting with the bank. The guy says there's no fraud. They're yelling and screaming, you can't say that in court. And she's like, why are you guys doing this? And then because they hid the evidence, I lost that first trial. So I was facing 10 to 20 years in prison and another trial coming up. Those 3 things combined, plus all this misconduct with the vanishing computers and there's other shenanigans too, was just too much for her. So she made a decision that she could not live with herself if she let me and all these other people go to prison, and even though she knows that this is wrong. So as she became aware that there was serious wrongdoing with exculpatory evidence, she actually started taking it from the office or copying it, okay, like that interview. So the guy at the bank says, no, there's no fraud here. We allow this. This is okay, okay? So this FBI agent, Kassouf, the guy that was yelling at me because I said we don't own mortgage companies, and oh, you can't say that. So they'd never produced this interview with the bank before the trial. Okay. It's called a Brady violation. It would have ruined their case if I would have waved the thing around and said, look, the bank says there's no fraud. The victim says they're not a victim. What are we doing in court here? Okay? Somebody got shot in Anchorage, Alaska last night. Why don't we prosecute Tony Viola? Oh, I know, he wasn't involved. I mean, there's this ridiculous. I mean, why are we doing this? Well, just to recap, Dawn comes forward for three reasons. One, she's aware of this affair with the witness who they know is lying. Two, she was in this meeting with this bank dude, the supposed victim, who says that they allow these loans. And then three, I lost the first trial. Had I won the trial, I don't think Dawn would have come forward. But when I lost the trial, but I wasn't imprisoned yet because I hadn't been sentenced, I think she recognized that it was time for her to, she just, in her mind, couldn't live the rest of her life knowing that me and many other people were going to prison, and the victim said they weren't a victim, and they didn't lose money, okay? And they're on TV saying I stole $46 million. But the actual bank that supposedly lost money said, no, we didn't lose any money, and we allow these loans. So she calls me and basically says, I have to talk to you. The times that we were preparing for trial and talking about your witnesses and I was helping you and talking to your lawyer, they were recorded and given to Mark Bennett and Dan Caceres in the prosecutor's office, in the U.S. Attorney and the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. And the Ohio Attorney General, this Micah Alt, was also involved in all this, part of this task force. So, I mean, it was shocking. I mean, I felt totally betrayed. I thought Dawn was my friend. My friends liked her. We were out together. I mean, we never had like a romantic relationship, but you know, I thought she was my friend. My friends really liked her. We had her out with us, and then what? You're recording stuff for the prosecutors? And then I asked her if she thought I was innocent, and she said, I know your case better than you know it. I know you're innocent. I said, well, where is this evidence that I'm innocent? She says, I have it. I've been taking it. And I said, well, I want you to give it to me. And she said, you don't understand. If I give you this evidence that proves that you're innocent, I'm going to get indicted for stealing from the prosecutor's office. Don Nugent, the federal judge, is so pro-prosecutor, it'll never see the light of day. He'll seal it. It'll never come up. The only way to use this evidence is at your second trial. So I'm like, I got to go to jail. I got to be sentenced, right? And then the next trial starts, and then she said, yes, that's the only way to do it. Oh, and by the way, you can't use a lawyer. She said, your lawyer, Jay Milano, and this Kevin Spellacy, these two guys are clowns. They love the prosecutors. They talk tough. I mean, the defense bar in Cleveland is a joke. It turned out that these prosecutors and lawyers are all playing poker together, hanging out, having a good old time during my trial. You know, I'm on trial, I'm gonna go to jail for 10, 20, 30 years. They're having a great time talking about movies, and Mark Bennett's using P90X, he's got a workout regime, all this nonsense. And they just thought it was having a good old time, just a blast. And so, I mean, this is just crazy stuff. So anyway, Dawn said, you can't use a lawyer at your second trial because a lawyer will tell Mark Bennett and Dan Caceres that you have all this stuff. And they won't actually put you on trial, or they'll indict me and indict you for obstructing justice, and they'll be appalled that we stole records, and they'll say it doesn't mean what it says. And she's right, because they said I stole $46 million, even though I stole zero, and I own companies, I didn't own them. It doesn't matter. They say whatever they want. I mean, the best summation of this whole thing is a guy named Conrad Black, who's a wrongfully prosecuted business guy. He's a famous member of the British House of Lords. He wrote me when I was in prison, and he said, prosecutors do whatever they want, to whoever they want, for as long as they want, using illegal tactics and unsavory methods with impunity. It's true. So Dawn's like, Don Nugent isn't going to read these records and say, oh, maybe there's an unjust thing going on here. He doesn't care. So, you know, the old saying is the judge is a notary, the prosecutor is the judge, and the defense lawyer is the prosecutor's investigator trying to encourage you to tattle everything you know. We have to help the government. So, I mean, if you think court is fair, Dawn's words, not mine, you know, what else do you believe in? You know, do you believe the Brooklyn Bridge is for sale? I mean, what are you, it's ridiculous. So she's adamant that this has to be, this with the shock the prosecutors with these documents at a trial. There's no other way to establish innocence. Because if we use a lawyer, the lawyer will rat me out. And if we file it in court, the federal judge loves prosecutors, will seal it. He is a prosecutor, loves prosecutors, hangs out with them, thinks they're great. They go to the Rocky River Club or whatever on Saturdays and watch horses and all this polo, whatever this crap. So, I mean, the trial is not a quest for truth. It's win at all costs. So I was shocked, but over time, I was able to basically agree with what Dawn was saying. And, you know, even though this had happened to me and I lived this horror, I still didn't believe it half the time. I'm like, could this actually be happening? when it says United States of America versus Tony Viola, that's what that is. This country will destroy and smash you with all of its power. So when the government wants to, they will smash you.
So in the midst of this, is Dawn concerned at all?
She's scared out of her wits because let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about her perspective. She goes from being enthusiastic, ambitious, she's excited, she's absolutely gorgeous. She's fun. We're out at restaurants and bars with a bunch of my friends. She's having cocktails. She's the life of the party. She's talking to everyone. Sort of the center of attention. She's brilliant. She knows a lot about all kinds of different topics. So you can sort of connect with anybody. She gets on their level and connects. She was real nice. Like one time, one of my friends we were at this little happy hour or something. And one of my buddies was just kind of by himself. And so she goes over and pulls him in. Let's can't have you standing over there. Come on, talk to us. So she went from that, ambitious, excited with this job, to actually a shell of herself. I think this crushed her soul. She confronted Bennett and Caceres when this bank guy is saying, we allow the loans. Why are we prosecuting this dude? And they tell her to shut up and never talk like that and never say that. And she's upset. She leaves in tears, and she had already taken a lot of the evidence because she didn't know she was going to reach out to me. But that was like a real shock. And there's a big blow up. There's a second one where she's yelling and there's arguments, and she's fired. So now the genius criminal justice person with this plum job is now fired, and the prosecutor's office is going to now destroy her reputation, make it impossible for her to work in law enforcement ever again. So fast forward, she's 26. She was forced to do this illegal recording trial prep. She's aware of serious wrongdoing inside the prosecutor's office that she witnessed herself. She witnessed Catherine Clover rifling through files, taking evidence out that incriminated that girl. I mean, it'd be like the prosecutor call, hey, Tony, you want to come through and just go through see if you said anything stupid or whatever, take it out? But it's crazy. So she's just, this is nuts. So she's, broke with no job, right? Shattered because she's studied this in school and has a degree in criminal justice, had wanted to work for the FBI, was taking classes, and now she's fired and afraid. But she still came forward and contacted me. But when she started helping me, she's like, you can't be calling me, or we have to do this, offline. And so when we would get together, she would say, I'm leaving my phone at my apartment, leave your phone at your house. I mean, when we ended up, right before I was put in federal prison, she came over and we did trial preparation. We were literally making exhibits for the case. She's teaching me how to do this. I don't know how to do this stuff, how to question the witnesses and the defense theory of the case, and we're going to cross-examine. I don't know what this stuff. So she did. She was a genius. We're making all these boards. We went to a bookstore and bought a bunch of books about how to buy real estate, no money down. Other people's money, how to buy real estate. Okay, here, you're going to arrest these people. We're going to throw this at the detectives. You're going to put this guy in jail. Look. So she's like, you can undermine their case. We can undermine their facts. We can prove that you're innocent. Grinding it out, count by count by count. That was her strategy, but she was a shell of herself, and she was fragile. And when we were working on the case stuff together, I mean, we must have had 8 gallons of coffee just to keep going. She had lost weight. She was always petite, but she was real, you could just tell she was real fragile. She had these dark circles under her eyes. It was really kind of heartbreaking for me. I mean, I was grateful for her help, and I didn't want to go to jail for the rest of my life, but I was worried about her. But she was scared out of her mind. In fact, she wouldn't even let me pick her up. When we got together the last time, she actually took public transportation from Parma to Cleveland Heights. It's not easy. And she wouldn't, she's like, no, you can't, we just can't do it. So she was very afraid of being prosecuted or indicted for stealing evidence. Now, it turns out that she was a whistleblower, and it turns out that government employees have no obligation to engage in illegal activity. they threatened her and they said she broke the law and she violated confidentiality agreements. She actually didn't. This was during the second trial. They were saying, oh, she's a criminal, we're going to indict her. Dan Caceres puts it in writing, we're going to indict her for violating her. She never had a confidentiality agreement. They lied to her and said she did. Maybe they convinced her that she did. When you get hired, you fill out all these forms. I don't know, maybe, So they really messed with her head and intimidated this lady. They went to her parents' house. They went to her apartment. They're looking for computers. What did you give this guy? He's got all this record. They were concerned that she made copies or mailed it to other lawyers or other defendants. All these people are going to jail. So she was supposed to come to that second trial. But this threats and intimidation were so overwhelming that she called the court and asked to talk to me, and she was my last witness. She wanted me to prove that I was innocent and that she was going to be the last witness to talk about what was actually going on inside the task force, blow the whistle on this affair, blow the whistle on this nonsense with evidence. There was a concerted illegal, that task force is actually a criminal enterprise. They were sending state detectives out to interview witnesses, and if they said Tony's innocent, thanks, we'll call you if we need you. And they wouldn't send it to the FBI or Mark Bennett in the U.S. Attorney's Office. They were like screening witnesses. So then we'd ask Bennett, well, where's the interview? Oh, we don't have that. So, this is an actual, if you ever wondered, how far will prosecutors go to win a case or to not admit that they made a mistake? This is a good example of the stuff that they're willing to do, even to the point of Dan Caceres and Catherine Clover emailing about altering records inside the prosecutor's office. Actually in writing, talking about altering documents. So we're using false testimony and we're altering documents. It's cool. Don Nugent doesn't have a problem. Federal judge, no, we love law and order. So it's crazy what these people were willing to do.
So as this case plays out, at what point does this happen to Dawn?
Okay, so she's supposed to be my last witness at the second trial. And I had talked to her a couple days before, and she said they were threatening her and her family. And I said, well, let me take you off the witness list. I don't want you to come to court. I remember saying, if anything happened to you, I would shoot myself. I can't take anymore, please. And she's like, Tony, they already know I'm helping you. I have to come in. I have to testify. And we'd practiced, by the way, what questions to ask her. So I know she was planning on coming to court. And she felt that this was the way for her to move forward with her life, and that these cases should be re-examined where the prosecutors were hiding evidence and where this Catherine Clover's testifying and having sex with Dan Caceres and all, that those cases should be called into question particularly. Well, she doesn't show up. She's supposed to be there at 9, she doesn't come. Judge Daniel Gall, Cuyahoga County Court says, look, this case has gone on for 6 weeks, this trial. We're done. The jurors, they're taking time away from their lives. We are going to, I'll take an adjournment. I have other cases to handle at 1 o'clock. If she's here, she can go on. Otherwise, we're doing closing statements. And then he says, Tony, do you know what this lady looks like? And I said, yes, Your Honor. And he said, well, go out and look and see if she's in, which amazing, because I was in jail, right? And the second trial, I was a prisoner. So I could have walked out and left. I was wearing a tie. Anyway, look, she's not out there. So what do I know? I don't know. I thought, well, maybe she changed her mind. I don't know. I didn't know what to think. The whole thing was overwhelming. I'm in jail. I'm starving to death. You get a bologna sandwich at 6 in the morning, which I don't want a bologna sandwich at 6 in the morning. Then you get a bologna sandwich at noon, which maybe you have and then a bologna sandwich at 6 at night. It's just brutal. And I'm put in a holding cell. It's just a crazy. One day they forgot me until they did a count. Well, where's Tony? Did he escape? Oh, wait, he's in court. And I'm in some holding cell outside everyone went home. I'm banging on the thing. I'm there for hours. That Cuyahoga County Jail, by the way, you talk about evil. Anyone who is an investigative journalist should look into how that place runs. That is state-sponsored torture, that place. Awful. So anyway, so when Dawn didn't show up, the judge said, we're moving to closing statements. We gave closing statements. The jury got the case. I was called back to court, I think a day or two later, as the jury started deliberating. I think it ended on a Friday or something, and they were going to start deliberating Monday or something. And I was called back to court almost immediately. I thought maybe there was a jury question. But there was no jury. And I'm like, and then the judge looked white as a ghost, and the court reporter looked like she was in tears, and they put on the record that Dawn was found dead in her apartment. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. absolute state of shock. I'm like, that's impossible. And they thought I was going to hurt myself. They put me back in the cell. I was wearing a tie. They took my tie, so I didn't hang myself in the jail cell. And they kept opening the door, and are you going to kill yourself? And I said, no, please leave me alone. And the guy kept opening the door, and then he opened the door, and he said, come on, you have to come to court. And I said, what? And it was the jury verdict. So I just find out that Dawn has passed away. I'm shocked. I'm blaming myself for this, right? Why did I bring her to court? You know, I'm just in a state of disbelief. She's my friend. I mean, this is crazy. In jail, it doesn't seem real. Someone passes away and you're in the real world. You can go to a service, you can go to a church, you can go to, there's a funeral home, there's others you can talk to. Oh my God, our loved one passed away. In jail, everything's the same, no matter what. Christmas, New Year's Day, Thanksgiving, someone died, your family died, it doesn't matter. So it's like the most awful place to try to process grief. Plus, the verdict hasn't come from the jury trial. It's just a lot to take, right? You think, what the heck did I do to deserve this? This is crazy. The government just couldn't spend enough money on this case. And so it's just this crazy situation. And then my friend is dead and I was shocked. So they call me back to court and they start reading the verdict. Count 1, not guilty. There's 59 of these, by the way. Count 2, not guilty. Count 3, not guilty. Count 4, and I just I just remember like halfway through, wait, they've all been not guilty, you know? And I almost didn't even care because Dawn had passed away. So right from that point, and I'd never met Dawn's family, her sisters or her mom and dad, but right from that point, they found what happened suspicious. And I thought what happened was suspicious for separate reasons. So we, after the grief wore off, and I'm still a federal prisoner because I lost the first trial, and it's been a 15-year almost odyssey to get that tossed out, with the judges taking the side of prosecutors all the time here in Cleveland. I was in jail in Pennsylvania, so I filed some litigation there, and that's where the whole case started unraveling, which I can talk about that next. But back to Dawn, her family thought it was fishy. I thought it was fishy, and then when I was released from jail, after the FBI admitted lying and the Justice Department admitted lying about evidence. Can you imagine? They go to court one day and they say, everything we've said, all our statements about evidence, forget it, it's out. So there's lots of litigation about my case that's ongoing. And in terms of Dawn, you know, when I was released from prison, and I've had a private investigator, a guy named Bob Frederick, and his colleague Tom Doyle for many years have been working on this case. And then what Ed and Karen Pasela and Dawn's family members knew, and what I knew, and our investigative team put together, there's just a whole bunch of reasons that Dawn's case should be reinvestigated. So that's where we're at now, is advocating for a new investigation into what happened to Dawn. Just for example, some of the suspicious things, where we've got the unsigned police report. The responding officers did not call an ambulance, but a mortuary service. There was 3 cell phones, one with an outbound phone call, supposedly after Dawn died, because they said there was so much rigor mortis. The police never collected 3 cell phones. A guy named Marty Maurer, who we think is a government informant, was at Dawn's apartment. He's been caught lying. He told an investigator named Marty Yant he was there that night, everything was fine. He told our investigative team he wasn't there that night. During Dawn's funeral, he was demanding to have access to her apartment. He wanted to get into her apartment to put a teddy bear into the casket. But there was no teddy bear in the apartment. He probably wanted to retrieve his cell phone. Dawn's computer was missing. The heat was cranked up, possibly to accelerate rigor mortis. There was a window opened that an assailant could have escaped from. Dawn lived in Midtown Towers in Parma, large apartment complex. Surveillance cameras everywhere. The police never got any of the surveillance video. The medical examiner did a very cursory study of Dawn. I'll give you, for instance, we hired an expert pathologist named Dr. Peter Mazzari from New Jersey to look into what happened. And he was just shocked that there was just so few photos. Photos were blurry. You couldn't make out things. So for instance, is it possible that Dawn would have on her arms marks on her veins where somebody injected something? It's conceivable, but there's no pictures of Dawn's arms, so you can't rule things out. So because you can't rule things out, there's so many possibilities, and they were never investigated. The Cuyahoga County Sheriff took a look at this file and said the case absolutely should be reopened. There's a lawyer in Cleveland named John Patrick, who's a partner at Reminger, who's Dan Caceres' brother. By the way, Caceres is great because his name really isn't even Caceres, it's Radarowitz from Youngstown, and they've got all kinds of criminal history in that family, and then the brothers all changed their last names. So we got Caceres, who's really Radarowitz, John Patrick, and then Paul Logan, who does financing. Well, John Patrick was overheard multiple times talking about Dawn's murder. There's a lady named Kelly Connors, the aforementioned government witness. She supposedly has recordings of Dan Caceres talking about Dawn and this murder. So the sheriff recommended the case be reopened. Parma, Ohio refuses to cough up the file. And then the Ohio cold case office says the case should be reopened. And they would take the case, but Parma won't give them the case. So we've had multiple rallies in front of Parma City Hall saying, why are you covering up wrongdoing? The police chief, Bozak in Parma, who just retired, he interviewed Dan Caceres, didn't take any notes. It's people all protecting each other. The safety director in Parma, a guy named Bob Corey, he was the #2 guy at the county prosecutor's office when these cases were going on, and he oversaw the medical examiner when Dawn was found dead, and he's buddies with Dan Caceres. So they don't want to reopen the investigation into Dawn because they don't want me to ultimately win and have the first conviction vacated, and they don't want to have to reopen these cases. But we are not tolerating this, and we're not going to be worn down or run out of gas. There's a lot of people. We've got 7,000 folks on our Change.org petition, almost 1,000 on the Facebook group for Dawn, a lot of website traffic for Justice for Dawn. So there's a $10,000 reward. If anybody knows anything and wants to submit a tip, they certainly can. And we do keep folks updated. So if you're interested in what happened to Dawn, or you want to share thoughts or suggestions or comments, or if you want to share a story of something that you think, good or bad, about law enforcement, we have a platform that we open to everybody. You can be a guest blogger on freetonyviola.com. You can post your thoughts or comments. You can post a video. So reach out to us if you want. But right now, we are on a long slog for justice, but we are not giving up, and hope that we can drive accountability into these law enforcement offices and hold people responsible for what happened to Dawn Pasela and 1,200 of our friends and neighbors that were wrongfully prosecuted by a task force.
And just go back to a couple of details of the investigation. You said that the heat was cranked up in her place. What about what time of year was it?
So it was April 25th.
Okay.
Okay, it was actually pretty warm out. It was a very warm spring day. We did check the temperature. So it was unusual to have the heat cranked up and the window opened.
Right.
So an assailant could have exited the apartment. There's other things in the apartment that don't make sense. So Dawn supposedly drank herself to death with alcohol, and there is a bottle of vodka in the trash, but there's no cups anywhere. There's 2 cups of coffee on the desk. The police report says that her leg was on a chair, but the photos don't match. So it's possible that the crime scene or the death scene was altered. Dawn was supposedly at a 0.6 alcohol, which is astronomically high, but she's cooking soup on the stove. She's fully clothed. She's wearing jeans and a shirt and a nice belt. There's no vomit or urine. So for somebody who supposedly drank herself to death, it's just an unusual scene, and the failure to interview witnesses, and there's a whole list of them who know things or have given inconsistent statement or have said that Dawn was murdered, or that there's voice recordings of Caceres talking about Dawn's death or murder. It's just unconscionable. There's no legitimate law enforcement reason not to do it. These guys have spent more time arguing with us than just do it. Just interview these people.
Right.
It's crazy.
So why do you think they're not reopening the case?
Because they're protecting their buddies. So in law enforcement, the idea is, I'm not going to tattle on my guy next there, even if he's doing wrong stuff, because I don't want somebody to put a microscope and look at everything I did. So there's this unwritten rule. So law enforcement, you see these guys on TV with their uniforms and the sheriff hat, and we need the help for the public. And did you see anything? See something, say something. So they want you to call the police and tell on people or say what you saw, but they don't do anything in their own offices when there's outright criminal activity going on. So this is a cabal. This is one of the reasons why this area economically is so bad. These jobs and these police departments are like, you'd shoot your grandmother for. It's crazy. We don't have economic opportunity here. There's no talk of bringing jobs here by any of these local officials. We're talking about where we're going to build jails, and it's crazy. So these guys all work together. They hang out with each other. They're political allies, and they protect each other. And that's what's going on in Parma, and shame on those people. You know, I've had people say, well, you know, you need to move on or whatever. This is someone's daughter. How would you like it if it was your sister or your mom or your cousin or your girlfriend? Or this is terrible to treat Dawn this way. All she was trying to do was do the right thing, and she ended up dead. And she never should have been ordered to wear a wire. And the prosecutors gravely abuse their power. If you're not sure what businesses a person owns, what are you raiding our company for? It's ridiculous. Just call up us. We'd come down there. Send a subpoena or a call. We would have come down and given you our records. So this whole thing is crazy. It's the desire to be on TV, these prosecutors, destroying people's lives and not thinking anything of it. These guys are megalomaniacs. But they all protect each other and they stick together. It's wrong. So, you know, look, we want to be idealistic like Dawn. We want to drive change. We really want to try to get Mark Bennett and Deanne Caceres arrested. Put them in prison. They obstructed justice. They interfered with government proceedings. All this nonsense they did are crimes. Why do we want them to go to jail? Not out of hatred, and we hate them. We want to drive change and tell these law enforcement officials, use your power properly. Don't hide evidence in criminal cases. Don't imprison innocent people. Wrongful convictions are not a mistake. It's an intentional wrongdoing by people that start with a conclusion and work backwards and won't listen to new evidence. And what happened to Dawn is terrible, and it should never be permitted in this country. That someone's daughter is working for the prosecutors and ends up dead, this is terrible. So we just feel like we are going to advocate for Dawn. She's not here to advocate for herself. But I know she appreciates everyone's interest in what happened to her, and we just want to put an end to this criminal activity by prosecutors.
Right. So if people want to find out more about her case and your case, they can go to Justice for Dawn?
Yeah, justicefordawn.com. There's been an investigative series by a group called Seeking Justice. It's been highlighted by the infamous ex-chief. There's a YouTube channel about law enforcement in Cuyahoga County. There's national channels that have highlighted Dawn's case. So if you're a true crime expert or interest, please check it out. There's links. You can read the evidence yourself. Don't take my word for it. You can read the sheriff's investigation into what happened to Dawn, their recommendations, the refusal by Parma. Kim Corral has spoken eloquently about Dawn and this great power imbalance by these powerful officials just trying to smash this young lady who's just trying to do the right thing. So you can watch some of Kim's videos that she's given passionate speeches or talks about what's happened to Dawn. So you can check that out or check the documents. And if you're interested in true crime or you have ideas or suggestions, we got a lot of good tips from people. If you know anything, you heard anything, you have any thoughts or suggestions on how to solve a case like this, just because the police don't want to do it, we'll do it. We'll do it ourselves if we have to. We've gotten all kinds of evidence and witness information, and so we welcome and encourage anyone to reach out with any thoughts or suggestions.
Okay. All right, Tony. Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks for featuring the story. I'm grateful to you, and I know there's a lot of time and investment that you're making into this production, so I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. No problem at all.